Welcome to the MongoDB podcast. I'm Shane McAllister. I'm one of the leads on our developer relations team, and it's great to have you join us today. So, in a world when AI can write your code, well, at least some of the time, software development and data careers need rethinking. How you work and how you learn are utterly changing. Do you vibe code everything and hope for the best, as we've seen many articles recently? Do you spend your evenings and weekends poring over all the latest tools and frameworks? Well, today's guest, we're going to have a great discussion and dive into the controversial area of keeping up with the vibe coders. But before we do that, a little bit of housekeeping. So if you're new to the podcast live streams, you're very welcome. It's great to have you. Do visit MongoDB's YouTube and LinkedIn to subscribe and to follow us on either of those to keep up to date with future shows. If you're a returning visitor, it's really good to have you back. It's great to see people come back and join us again. So whilst we get ready for today's stream, drop a shout out into the chat. Tell us who you are, where you're joining us from. We love to hear from our fantastic viewers. And once the show actually kicks off in earnest, feel free to pop any burning questions you might have into the chat for my guest today, and we'll tackle them live. And if we've time, if we don't get to all of them, we'll wrap up some of them at the end as well too. We do really appreciate the interactivity. As ever, the live stream is being recorded and will be hitting MongoDB's YouTube and LinkedIn post-show. So don't worry if you missed the beginning or can't stay to the end as well too. You can always jump over there to catch the recording later at your own leisure. And with that, on with the show. And today, I'm really happy to welcome Richie Cotton, a Senior Data Evangelist, at DataCamp, to ruminate the changing relationship between engineering teams and data teams and modern developer workflows and everything else that we can decide to get onto on today's topic. Richie, you're very welcome to the MongoDB podcast. How are you?
Life is good, Shane. Really pleased to be here. I'm based in New York City. We're having a heat wave today. Just got a message from the building saying they are turning the air conditioning down in order to save energy. If I start sweating throughout the show, that's what's happening.
Hey, this is a live stream. Anything can happen. And I'm not usually, for regular viewers, I'm not usually in my normal place. I'm in Amsterdam at the moment doing what we call a developer day at MongoDB, where we get some of our clients into a room for a day or two, and we run through some MongoDB fundamentals and also some deeper topics with them as well too. So if the Wi-Fi goes or anything else happens or somebody comes in and knocks on the door, I do apologize. So if you pass out from heat exhaustion, Richie, or I get moved out of this room, everyone knows that this chat is live. I love to start with most guests to kind of dig back a little bit. Your career path to date, Richie. Where did you start? What roles have you gone through all the way up to your current role as evangelist in DataCamp?
Absolutely, yeah. My background is in data science, so I started, well, before it was called data science, really. So this is back in 2005. I was working on data for chemical health and safety. So that was the start of my career. I've also done data science in other industries. So I moved from chemical health and safety to debt collection. And then I moved from debt collection to proteomics. And there it was trying to work out what was going on with like proteins. I hadn't done any biology since I was 16. I started asking stupid questions about, what's that thing in a cell again? But industry shifts are very difficult, but the data's been sort of persistent throughout. I joined DataCamp in 2016. Since then, I've been teaching things around data and more recently AI.
Okay, excellent. And I'm always super impressed when I get published authors on the show as well too, because I see the work that's required into creating content like that. Tell us about the two books that you put together as well.
Sure, yeah. So I wrote two books on R programming. So the first one was called Learning R, and then I wrote Testing R Code. So I really enjoyed the process of writing, actually. That was how I kind of ended up working in education. I enjoy teaching people. It's kind of sad to me that R is sort of declining as a language. I think it's a great language for working with data. Python's taken over everything. I like Python as well, but yeah. Two great books now obsolete. And these days, I do all my teaching via, well, as you say, evangelism. So that means I host the DataCamp podcast called DataFramed. I run our webinar program. I also organize virtual conferences. Actually, the next one is on Thursday. If you want to sign up for DataCamp Radar, I don't think I have a link for you, but internet search for DataCamp Radar. That's happening on Thursday.
Excellent. So, what's it like to be the guest instead of the host, Richie?
So it's going to be tricky if I start asking you questions. That's going to be force of habit.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. So, like, I was familiar with DataCamp. I know MongoDB has done stuff and has lots in the future with DataCamp coming. But for our viewers who wouldn't be familiar, give us a little potted history of DataCamp and where it's at today.
Sure, yeah. So DataCamp is an education company. So we do online courses for data and AI skills. And as well as the courses, we also do projects. We have certifications for testing your skills. And then we have a productivity platform. It's basically, it's a hosted Jupyter Notebook platform called Data Lab. It's designed to make it easy to get started and easy to collaborate with others.
Okay. And you've been there since 2016, as you said. Obviously, massive changes, right, in those 9 years or so in this space, more particularly certainly in the last, well, publicly in the last 2.5 years in the AI world. How has that changed DataCamp's approach to learning? And if I could slot in a second question there, uh, MongoDB redesigned its university platform probably about 18 months ago to make them shorter, more succinct courses. How does DataCamp appeal to that, as I would call them, the TikTok generation, Richie?
Oh yeah. So things have changed widely. Like when I started DataCamp in 2016, there were 18 of us. There's more than 200 now. So obviously,
Oh,
like
wow.
it's a growing space. A lot of people wanting to learn about things, and I think our focus to begin with was very much on just data scientists and data analysts. And since then, everyone wants to know about data, and in the last couple of years, everyone wants to know about AI. So we've created a lot more slightly less technical content, so more introductory stuff for people who like, okay, maybe your background is like marketing or HR, but you need to understand things about like the basics about data and AI. So we have a lot more basic
Mhm.
content. And then obviously, like the rise of the AI engineers has been the big story in the last couple of years. So we have content for that crowd as well. But yeah, you mentioned the TikTok generation. So when we started all our courses, they were 4 to 5 hours long, and this was
Mhm.
like, okay, we need to go faster because before that it was like, you go on Coursera and you've got to take an 8 week course. No one has time for that. So we were like, okay, we can do fast content, and yeah, we are getting increasing pressure for 1 hour courses and
Okay.
shorter format content.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Listen, as the father of three kids who are teenagers and upwards, yeah, their attention spans are just non-existent, Richie. So,
Is it
yeah,
those damn kids?
I'm just sounding like an old curmudgeon now. But anyway, um, when we have people with the data science background on the podcast, they're at pains to point out that AI is nothing new. Machine learning has been around for a long time. The principles behind AI have been there for decades at this point in time. But you've obviously seen this huge impact, certainly, as I said earlier, in the last 2.5 years, the impact of AI on coding practices. And obviously, Copilot, one of the first out the gate there with, we can be your pair programmer, we can sit beside you, we can help you. How has, in your view, AI changed the day-to-day work of developers?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is interesting because developers tend to adopt new technology a lot faster than data scientists. It's just a fact of life. Like all the tooling gets built for developers first because it's developers creating stuff for themselves, and it's obviously a much bigger target audience than the smaller sort of data realm. So yeah, I think things like Copilot and more recently you got like Cursor, Windsurf, all these kind of new fangled IDEs that are very much AI powered. So these target developers first. So I think yeah, you hit the nail on the head. The big difference is AI is actually getting quite good at writing your code for you, and that means you need to think less about, well, what's the syntax, and more about what do I actually want to build. And so these product skills of determining like what do I need to do for to solve a user problem, that's becoming increasingly important to think about. Also, I think because it doesn't work all the time, like just you got to spend more time just looking at like code smells. Like what's gone wrong with this code or what's weird. Looking at for weirdness, identifying things that might be going wrong. That's seems to be a greater proportion of people's time compared to just trying to remember syntax.
Yeah, I think like and at MongoDB we spent quite a while, probably about 2 years ago, we first started being concerned a little bit about coding assistance in, obviously there's a different discussion about the value and the use case, and is it a junior developer, should they be using it when they don't know what they're doing, versus senior developer, which is reducing the mundane and the boilerplate. But we were, I suppose, preoccupied in MongoDBs particularly in trying to understand how good these code assistants were with MongoDB operations, making sure that they had the ground truths and the best practices, etc. So we did a lot of projects with many code assistant providers to make those better, and to good effect. It opened up a different area for us as well too. But when we were preparing for the live stream, we deliberately chose the clickbaity title with vibe coding. Talk to me a little bit about where we are there now, Richie. Is it a viable strategy or incredibly risky shortcut?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it depends on what the consequences of writing bad code are. So, you're developing something for like a satellite that's going into space. It's like you want every single line of code to be thoroughly checked and optimized, because if you get anything wrong, the satellite crashes, you've lost tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. On the other hand, if you're a data analyst, you're doing exploratory data analysis. If the code's terrible, it's like, okay, I've drawn a plot that doesn't give me any value. You've just wasted like 2 seconds looking at a stupid plot. It's like, it doesn't matter. So I think actually in data use cases, vibe coding has got a lot of value. You don't want to care so much about the code. You like, particularly for exploratory stuff, you just want to generate lots of things fast. So it works really well there. Yeah. So it's all about the trade-offs of like, what happens if things go wrong?
I think so. And I suppose that's what I was trying to allude to with the junior developers using code assistants. Yes, they can get started super quickly in an area that they mightn't have the skills or expertise to potentially debug further down the tracks. And I think, and I know the developers that I know using the code assistants to great effect are, yeah, it's replacing the boilerplate, it's replacing the mundane. They're still a little skeptical on the business logic going to the coding assistants per se, but they're using it as a canvas. In other words, they're almost like a writer getting a draft, going, I want to build this. Can you start some of it? And I'm going to tweak and shape it. How do you feel in that as well, too? Are you seeing that?
Yeah, definitely. So I like the idea of like coming up with ideas using AI. Like even before you start writing code, it's like, well, what do I want to do? What should the structure of this be like? Yeah, generative AI is great for that. Um, But don't you point about like junior developers? That's a tricky one, because you're right that like understanding your code is becoming incredibly important. But if you've only ever been using AI assistants to develop stuff, it's like, as a hiring manager, do I really want to hire someone who can generate code really well, but they can't understand it? And it's a tricky one, but it's not a clear cut answer. If, for example, if you're a marketing analyst and you only write code like 5% of your job, it's like maybe that's fine that you can only use AI assisted tools to build something, because most of it, your marketing knowledge is the most important thing. If you're a
Sure.
software developer, that's a very different proposition. Like, I think I would only want to hire software developers who can write code themselves, or at least understand code without having the AI explain it to them.
True, I hear you, and I think on other shows I've done on similar topics, the notion of checks and balances. There's the notion of, yeah, by all means use AI to write some of your code, but go review that or get some peer review of that, and put those checks and balances in place. We've had RedMonk, who are basically you know consultants with regard to the developer space, and on the show as well too, talking about this very topic, and they were discussing the risk of skills atrophying. If you're not used to this, and if you're just relying on the code assistance over time, and the more you rely on it, the more that kind of fundamental first principles skills are going to disappear. and I suppose the more potential, as you might have said, upstream problems you could encounter if you can't debug that code.
Yeah, and so I like the idea of having backup plans. So one of my hobbies, I go backpacking, and there it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, it's fine to have technology until you don't have it. So, for example, you can take a GPS with you, and then you can see like where you are at all times. And it's great till you drop your phone in a creek, and then you don't have it. It's like, okay, fine. So you want a backup plan? Like, it's nice to have a map, preferably waterproof, like a paper map. And then you need to have some map reading skills to find out where you are. And suppose the map blows away, well, it's actually also quite useful to have like a vague sense of where you are in the countryside. So having these backup plans for like when stuff fails is really useful. I think the same is true in coding. So it's like, okay, great to use AI assistants, but when the AI API goes down, whatever, you want to still be productive. Yeah, you need a backup plan for when stuff goes wrong.
Yeah, I think so. I was laughing there because I did electronic engineering in college, which was basically 4 years of maths, pure maths. And I remember giving out to our professor lectures that, I thought I'd be building electronic circuits and cool stuff. And he goes, here we teach first principles so that you will be able to do those, or at least know how they should work. But you're not a technician. You are the person who designs how they should work. And I suppose using any tool, you need to have a fundamental knowledge of kind of the grounding in it, etc. as well too. You mentioned, people playing with AI and who wouldn't be coders, etc. as well too. Do you think we're narrowing the gap between people who want to dabble and have an idea or have a concept or something, going back to this vibe coding, and being actually able to see whether that's viable or not?
Um, Absolutely. I mean, this has sort of long been the dream that
Mm-hmm.
everyone can do technical things. So, for example, in the business analytics space, the big story of the last decade has been around self-service analytics, and what you really want is like all your sales team, your marketing team to be able to answer their own damn questions about data rather than having to get the data team involved every time. And I think the same is true in terms of coding. It's like you want to build an app. It's like you shouldn't have to rely on someone technical to build something simple. And I'm really hoping that all, code generation and I guess no code tools as well as just AI just allow more people to be able to build stuff that they want to build without having to rely on the extra technical person.
Yeah, and I'm going to kind of dig down into that changing relationship, but I see a question in from Ram, and I don't know the answer to this. I hadn't. Have you heard about the superbase paradox, Richie? Is that
I
familiar to
I
you?
have not heard of the super base paradox.
Right,
Ron,
Ram,
do you
we
want
need an
to give us
explanation.
a
Yeah.
a bit more explanation, and then we can argue about it?
Yeah, and I said at the beginning, obviously we stream live on LinkedIn and YouTube. I've just got some DMs internally here going, it doesn't seem to be on LinkedIn at the moment. So I apologize if there's less interactivity or you're trying to get this to work on LinkedIn. It doesn't seem to be, I don't know, some connection somewhere has gone. So I think we're solo on YouTube at the moment, Richie. So that's our audience. Anyway, the you mentioned there the business intelligence and needing data teams and data engineers to get involved with the marketers and the people looking for the information, and that relationship having changed because AI is bridging that gap. Um, how is that changing how those teams work together? How's that changing how those teams collaborate together, and how does it, and the involvement of how that relationship will be?
Yeah, so actually, this has had a big effect on where data people are placed within organizations. So
Hmm.
one thing we've been seeing is that the data analyst role itself has been kind of dying out as a job title in favor of more commercially focused alternatives. So, for example, rather than just being a data person in a data team, you are now a marketing analyst, or you're a sales analyst, or you're a product analyst, and you're embedded within one of these commercial teams. So, there's been that move of like you need data skills plus some other like secondary business skill. But on the other side of things, you get data engineers, and they are becoming more centralized. So, if the further away from customers you are, the more likely you are to be in a central team, and the closer your work is to customers, the more likely you are to be in one of these sort of commercial teams. So those job roles have been changing a bit,
Mhm.
And I think actually, maybe throw this back to you. Have you seen like a difference in who's working with MongoDB? Are there different job titles interacting with it?
I suppose there is, and I look, we obviously, to use that American expression, eat our own dog food. We're using AI in some of our own tools. We started off putting an AI chatbot in our own docs so that you didn't have to search through the docs per se, but you could kind of just describe what you were looking for, and it would surface up the most appropriate results. And we've taken that across the board into one of the areas that we used to actually do some training on quite a lot was aggregation pipelines in the data context. And now we have a natural language to aggregation pipeline generator built into MongoDB Compass. So you can tell it what you want it to build and it will output the code for you. So we're seeing, I suppose, and more recently, certainly in the last 6, 7 weeks, we actually, for those who are familiar with MCP servers. MongoDB Atlas is now an MCP server. So in essence, you can have direct access to your data back on MongoDB without really knowing how to query that data on MongoDB. And that's for yourself, or that's through agentic systems or anything as well too. So we're seeing a big change in how people are working directly with the data. In the past, Richie, we were obviously, MongoDB is very idiomatic. We're using drivers to directly interact with the data. Now, a lot of that has been abstracted away. Yes, under the hood, that's what's going on in essence. But the requirements to really understand about collections and documents and sharding and how we manage all of that, that's just seems to be not disappearing, but less of an onus as to I just need to work with this data. And so big change on our side as well too.
Definitely. I have to say, like, I'm sure that like the theory of sharding is very cool. It's not something I want to worry about like on a day-to-day basis because it's just not directly adding value to my role. I think for a lot of people, it's like, well, how does this make me more money? It's like, well, yeah. It's better if it's someone else's problem if you can't answer that immediately.
But sharding was one of those things. I started in MongoDB about 5.5 years ago, and back then you had to very carefully choose your shard key. In other words, what were you deciding for how and where your data was split up amongst essentially your primaries and secondaries and all of your servers, etc. Now, and a while ago, you could change your shard key on the fly. So this whole you have to think really long and hard because you're never able to change this went to you can change it on the fly to exactly what you're saying. I don't really need to worry about it. I'm going to use the tools. And we've got performance monitors baked into Atlas now. So you can go in there and say, yes, I can use, they're using AI tools themselves to show you how you might be better able to structure your data, change your schema, where most of your queries are coming from, what part of your data collection most of those queries are hitting, and therefore how do you get more performance, more speed as well too. So it's an ever changing space. And on that note, obviously in DataCamp, you're creating this content, creating these courses with that rapid changing of the ecosystem that we operate in. What are your kind of top strategies, Richie, for continuous learning? DataCamp aside, because that's what we're going to get to, and we're going to have a demo. But how do you keep ahead of things as well too in this space?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's a definite problem in that. I mean, particularly with AI, there's just so many companies; it's impossible to keep up with everything. And the half-life of skills seems to be getting shorter and shorter. Like you learn stuff and then it goes out of date, like maybe a year or two later at most. So yeah, you just have to spend more time learning in order to keep up with stuff. There's no way around that. But I do think there are a lot more sources of information. So I mean, you've got sort of formal learning through courses, but you've also got, I mean, my LinkedIn feed is full of people just blathering about like the latest tool, and there's tons of influencers who are like willing to tell you like what the latest cool tool is. There are tons of reports going on. I really like the reports from McKinsey, Quantum Black. That's their AI arm of McKinsey. They do some very good research, but there's tons of stuff around. So I mean, it really is just a case of like keep listening to what other people are trying to tell you. I mean, of course, podcasts and webinars are also our raison d'etre, both of us. So yeah, keep attending those sorts of events as well.
Yeah, we had Iguazio, which is a company acquired by McKinsey and Quantum Black, on the live stream there last week as well too. So we had a great conversation about that as well, and how they are bringing AI to, that's a space that they've been in a long time. Um, I think in the learning context, then Richie, how do developers identify kind of the new tools and the frameworks that are worth their time? It's changing, it's moving so quickly. You don't want to bet your stack on something that might be gone in 6 or 8 months. What's your advice there?
Yeah, I mean, it is tricky. So I think just checking the financial viability of some of these AI startups is kind of worthwhile at the moment. Like, there's been a lot of like cash thrown at AI companies in the last sort of couple of years. It's not clear how much longer that's going to last. So we might be looking at
Mhm.
like sort of 2027, like big crash where half of these things disappear again. One thing I see, like in
I'll
general, like
hold you to that, Richie. I'll get you back when that
absolutely,
happens.
yeah. I mean, we've seen a few big failures already, but like
Mhm.
I think in general the ecosystem's fairly cash flush still at the moment. But in terms of getting started, I was thinking like just making use of some of the APIs around like working with the large language models and some of the data storage tools is a good place to start. LLM frameworks are also like a very useful thing. And at the moment, there's only
Mhm.
like three of them. It seems to have standardized around like LangChain, Llama Index, and
Yeah.
Haystack. So one of those
Mhm.
three seems to be useful. And then beyond that, it's the data storage tools that are very important to learn.
And I suppose going back to your earlier comment about it's easy to get started, it's easy to experiment. How important is that level of experimentation? I meet a lot of developers when we're doing MongoDB events, etc., who may not be using AI in the day job, but they're doing it in their personal projects. They are experimenting. They're jumping onto platforms like Lovable to build something quickly, those sort of things. How important are those kind of personal projects to a developer's career pathway and progression?
Oh, yeah. Having a portfolio is pretty essential. So, thinking about this from a hiring manager's point of view, whenever I've like tried to
Mhm.
hire people, it's like you start off, you like at the moment, like you put a job out there, you might be getting 500 applications just because things are tight in a lot of industries. So then,
Mhm.
you look at their resume or CV and you filter out, okay, well, let's get rid of like 400 people who obviously don't have the qualifications. There's like sent it in without knowing what the job was, and then you read the covering letter. It's like, okay, we'll weed out anyone who can't string a sentence together because they're going to be hard to communicate with at work, and that leaves you with more people than you can hire still. So then you're looking through. You want to find reasons for like, well, which people can I get rid of?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
having a portfolio is just a sanity check to make sure the person has the skills that they claim to have in their resume. So that means, uh, yeah, if I'm a hiring manager, I'm probably going to only like spend a minute or two looking at each thing in the portfolio, but I'm just
Mhm.
checking, do you actually have the skills that you say you have? So really you want to have simple projects that are easy to understand in under a minute or two. It doesn't have to be something really complex. It just has to be something
Mhm.
that demonstrates that you have the skills that are relevant to the job that you are applying for.
Okay. And I suppose something new that we did in MongoDB recently is we produced skills badges, going back to the TikTok generation that I was talking about. These are small, really, really bite-sized, under an hour pieces of learning that you can do and get a badge that you can display on your profile on LinkedIn, for example. Do you have something similar inside a data camp? The level of courses that people have taken or go through, is that something that would add to their CV or resume?
Yeah, sure. So there's sort of two alternatives here. So first of all, if you complete a course, you get a certificate. So this is just a
Hmm.
statement of completion, and this just proves that you've put in some effort into learning. We also have
Hmm.
certifications, which are basically you have to pass exams in order to say that you've got qualifications. And so some of these certifications are with existing companies. So, for example, like Microsoft, Amazon, whatever, they have these big, long-standing training programs, like for all the sort of cloud technologies. So you take DataCamp courses and then you go and pass a Microsoft certification. But for things
Okay.
like data science, where there's no sort of standard certification, we provide our own.
Okay. And for that data science certification, how long is that course pathway, Richie? How long does that take to go through?
So it depends whether you've got a background or not. I think from scratch, it's about 50 hours of learning, and then you might have to do a bit
Okay.
of practicing as well on top of that.
Okay. It's probably similar to our larger accredited MongoDB certification then that we have. It's a similarly decent chunk of learning in order to stand over the badge or the certification that you get at the end of that as well too. Um, have you seen obviously the type of courses that DataCamp are pulling together and putting out there change in the last 2 years or so with the onset of AI and all the tools in that space?
Yeah, definitely. Um, Interestingly, like from a corporate point of view, because we do subscriptions for individuals, but we
Hmm.
also do a lot of corporate training as well. And from a corporate point of view, the most popular AI courses is all about like getting started with generative AI. How do I do prompt engineering? How do I do the basics? Understanding like what's possible with AI, understanding what's not. And what we're finding is that there are so many people who previously never had any interest in the space whatsoever. They now suddenly realize that they need to learn it as part of the job, because you've got like every CEO going, we are now an AI first company. We're going to put AI everywhere. And so, regardless of whether you think your job needs AI, you do need to have some AI skills, because your boss or your boss's boss is going to demand it of you.
Hmm. Hmm. So those skills are obviously augmented by, whatever ID that the developer is using. The code assistants can either be natively in there, they can be put through as extensions or plugins, etc. as well too. Um, but you still see the need for proper pathway of learning as opposed to just, as we said earlier, vibe your way through it and we're hoping the best.
Yeah, definitely. I think every hiring manager wants people who do have skills. So there's definitely a need for learning. Um, I would say please don't outsource your entire brain to AI. It's not going to do you any good in the long term. Actually, so there was an MIT paper that went viral recently. So it's all about like they did like brain scans of people writing essays, both
Mhm.
with AI assistance and without AI assistance. And unsurprisingly, the people who had to like think about what they were writing were thinking more than those who were just like typing a quick prompt and saying generate this. So kind of an obvious result, but it was cool that they had the sort of brain scans. And in general, this is a good life lesson. Is like it's cool to be more productive with AI assistance, but actually, yeah, occasionally you do want to engage your own brain. Critical thinking is gonna become like a highly commodified skill, I think, or a highly valued skill.
A highly valued skill such as common sense has become a highly valued skill as well too.
A rare thing, yeah.
A rare thing. I know we've been doing some work with our data camp of doing some MongoDB work, and we've got more in the future as well with yourselves. Tell us a little bit about that. What's been done already? What's coming down the tracks, Richie?
Yeah, so we are currently in the middle of remaking our course, which is Introduction to MongoDB in Python. So this is like how to use
Hmm.
MongoDB using Python tools. This is going to be launched, I think, late July, and then
Okay.
in August, we've got a course called Building AI Agents with LangGraph and MongoDB. So that's really sort of getting cutting edge. I'm hoping there are going to be more courses. So this is just so DataCamp and MongoDB recently signed a formal partnership. So this is just the start of things. I'm hoping there are going to be a lot more courses around MongoDB coming soon.
Excellent. And am I correct in thinking we were the first non-relational database data camp had a course on back in the day?
Yeah, so actually, this Intro to MongoDB in Python course, it's a remake of a course that was built, I think, back in 2017, 2018. So yeah, MongoDB was definitely the first NoSQL database course we had, and I think pretty much the only one for many, many years. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, that's great. And I suppose obviously MongoDB gets to participate in this AI space primarily through to the fact that 2 years ago we launched vector search on MongoDB, which has been an enabler for us. It's meant that regardless of what large language models you use, regardless of what embedding models, if you store the vectors out of those embedding models in MongoDB, the beauty is they're stored in the same document as the original data, which has a lot of advantages as well too. Are you seeing that resonates with when building these courses and putting together the AI agents with LangGraph? Are you seeing that resonates as well too, making it easier for people to have their data and the embeddings associated with that data side by side?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one thing for people who've been in the data space for a long time, they get used to the idea that data is mostly about like numbers and categorical data, but actually that's no longer true. It's like images are data now, words are data now, video is data now, audio is data now. Basically anything you can think of, it's data now. And so unstructured data is just so important. And there's a lot of people who've been around in data for a long time is having to like retrain their thinking to be like, okay, you need to think about unstructured data. And I think this is where MongoDB shines. And the fact that you've got the sort of, I say traditional NoSQL. I mean, it's not been around that long, but it's been what, like less than 2 decades. It's me getting old again. So yeah, you've got NoSQL stuff and you've got vector database stuff together in one place. I think that just makes things so much nicer. It's just, yeah, not having to learn different systems or different tools and for different things is definitely it streamlines your workflow.
Yeah, no, I couldn't have plugged MongoDB better. Thank you for that. The other thing too is that DataCamp actually use MongoDB underlying your product and platform as well too. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I can't give you too many details going on the engineering team, but
Sure.
recently in our Slack Win channels, Win's channel, they were talking about how they've just done an upgrade on how we store experience point data. So DataCamp has a gamification system. So every time you complete an exercise, you get some XP. All this XP data is stored using MongoDB. There was recently an upgrade using MongoDB 8. The engineering team got very excited because the performance improvements from MongoDB 8 mean that stuff goes faster and they're actually, it was more efficient. So they've actually managed to start running or storing all this on a slightly lower powered server, save some money. So basically it's going faster and saving money, which are like two good things. Getting both at once is very nice.
Yeah, and that was one of the things with MongoDB 8 at the time when we released it. It wasn't chock-a-block with a ton of new features, but the main messaging was around speed and performance and cost as well too. So it's great to see that in real life. It's probably prudent maybe to have we talked about DataCamp a lot. Maybe if you can do a bit of a screen share, Richie, so that we can, for those that aren't familiar, have a bit of a look around, a bit under the hood as well too, and to show us how it works, the platform, that XP data, as you said, that gets gathered as people complete things as well too, perhaps.
Sure, absolutely. Let me share my screen now. Okay, so this is the homepage for DataCamp, and so DataCamp is very simple from a platform point of view. It is basically Netflix for data and AI education. So basically, you just choose the courses you want, you click on them, go and take them. So from a navigation point of view, very, very straightforward. So one thing I would like to show you though is our tracks. So I'm just going to go to the learn thing. So tracks are series of courses that make sense in order. We have got 24 career tracks. So depending on what job you want, whether you want to be data scientist, data analyst, whatever, data engineer, we've got a track for you. I'm going to click on the AI engineering one. So we've got two of these. So one's a series of courses for if you have a background in data and you really want to get into AI engineering. One is for if you've got a background in software development, you want to get into AI engineering. So these have got, basically this one's 15 courses, so that's about 60 hours of content, and there is a certification available at the end. So if you want to prove that you have the skills, you can take that certification. There is a certification coming for the developer track sometime in Q3. So if I click through to this, you can see an example of what is going on. So this one's slightly shorter, so it takes about 26 hours to complete. And the first version of this, so it's focused on the OpenAI API. There's some Hugging Face stuff in there, and then you learn about Pinecone and LangChain. One thing we're hoping to do with sort of future versions of this, we want you'd have a choice of models. So doesn't have to be OpenAI. It could be the Anthropic Claude API. It could be Google Gemini API. Same with the data storage. So obviously we just signed a partnership with MongoDB. So maybe you want to swap out Pinecone and have MongoDB in there.
Of course you do.
Maybe,
Of course you do.
of course you do. We're quite the Pinecone people. And then, if you maybe don't want LangChain, maybe you want to use Llama Index, maybe you want to use Haystack. So we're gonna have a bit more flexibility in those. But that's the idea. You basically care about like APIs, data storage, and LLM development frameworks. Those are like the three most important broad skills. So I want to show you an example of an exercise. So within this course, you can see it's sort of split into smaller chapters, and within that, if you have a look at the flows, these play things, that's an example of a video. So we do short videos, like 3 or 4 minutes, and then the rest of the course, so at least 75% of the course is going to be hands-on learning.
Okay.
So let me show you just an example of this. So we've got a short video, and basically, you can see it's like 4 minutes long, nice and pretty stuff. You get a transcript. Once you go watch that, let me just reset this. You have a coding exercise, so all the coding is done in a browser. You don't need to install anything. In this case, it's just asking you to.
So no external ID needed. You can do it all straight on the platform.
Exactly. So it's basically like built-in IDE. It's got complete stuff. So in this case, it's like sending a message to the OpenAI client. So let me just type that. So you got to create an OpenAI client. And then you got to create a chat completion and then submit that to see if that's right. It's generated stuff, so you don't need to worry about like API tokens. You don't need to worry about setting anything up. You get a nice success message. Actually, I can show you if you do something. We'll go to the next exercise. I'll fill this one out wrong. So maybe we do the wrong model there. So if you do something wrong, it's going to tell you you've got like auto-graded feedback. There's an error in your code. You can see what the error message is. There's an AI assistant which will explain what went wrong.
Oh, brilliant!
So, so helps you learn faster, basically. And if you get stuck, you can also take hints about what's going wrong. And then, you can see if you get stuff right, you get XP. You got to pay XP to take the hints. So all very straightforward.
That's how you lose your XP.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can ask for the answer, but you don't get any XP there. So
nice bit of gamification, then I suppose there.
Yes, I have to say gamification's been one of the things I've been working on a lot over the last few months. So I kind of realized that I'm actually better at keeping my Duolingo streak than my DataCamp streak, even though data skills are more important to me than Spanish. It's just because there's like stupid owl giving me messages like 3 times a day saying, please practice. So we're pushing a bit harder on gamification just to give you that extra motivation in order to keep learning.
Okay, good. So that's something coming down the tracks from DataCamp then as well too. And I put up a link there. I'll post it in the comments as well too. But for anybody interested in, taking some of the DataCamp courses, you've generously given a 50% discount there. So appreciate that, Richie. I'll make sure to copy that and get it into the comments as well. Can they get started for free as well too? Is there trials? How does it generally work?
Yeah, so you can register for free. You get to take a few exercises, and there are a few courses that are entirely free. There are things you can do without before you pay money if you want to kind of try out the platform and learn a few bits and pieces. But if you want the full experience, access to more than 500 courses, then you got to sign up. Half price. Of course. One thing I find even better than buying DataCamp for yourself, we also do corporate plans. So if you want to get your boss to pay for DataCamp, get them to speak to the sales team.
That's certainly the best way to go about it. I'm just scanning through some of the comments. As I said earlier, I think we had a breakdown in the LinkedIn connection. Then I see it's picked up again. So something has fixed itself in the meantime. So thank you for everybody who's joined us on that as well too. There was one in about seeing the boundary between the data engineers and software engineers shifting. We did touch on that a little bit earlier, obviously. Do you want to maybe, if that was comment was missed by this uh, person joining us from LinkedIn, maybe touch on that a little bit again in terms of that shrinking?
Yeah, so I think there is a bit of blur between those that is increasing. So one thing I'll say is that
Hmm.
um, traditionally data teams have been a bit scrappy, and I think there's been increasing requirements about them becoming more professional in terms of software development. So software development like processes have been pretty um, well defined for decades now. I mean, you got like the agile process development. You've got lots of kind
Hmm.
of tools around like quality control that haven't been present as much in the data space. I think data engineers are being treated as though they're a type of software engineer. So there's a lot of more sort of professionalism around software quality there.
Okay.
Um, on the other side of things, I think software engineers are requiring more data skills. Like there's a lot more requirements around observability and just being able to understand. Oh, wait, is this
Hmm.
an anomaly in what's going on? Just being able to like predict what's going to happen and things. So things like time series forecasting are increasingly useful. I think on the product side as well, A/B testing's been around forever,
Hmm. Hmm.
but it's well certainly in the last decade it's been incredibly popular, and maybe software engineers need to understand like what the product manager's doing with it with those A/B tests. So that's definitely an important skill to learn.
Okay. All the time when we speak about data, there's always questions generally come up around authorization, security, encryption, access. Is there those sort of courses on DataCamp as well too, Richie?
Yes, we have courses around data privacy, data quality, data security, data governance, all these sort of things. Most of them are conceptual courses because it's not just technical people that need to understand these, it's everyone in your organization, really. So, yeah, all that's covered. Yeah, yeah, I think these are kind of becoming increasingly universal skills. Like you need to at least have the basics of like, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't put our sensitive commercial data out out into the public. Same with personally identifiable identification. It's worth understanding what those things are and how you should treat them.
Hmm. And in a similar vein, I suppose, when it comes to authorization and security and all of that, with the rise of AI agentic systems, so AI that's doing a series of tasks on your behalf before surfacing back with the results, two things. How does is that addressed maybe in some of the content you have there? But I suppose more secondly, more importantly for me is kind of your thoughts on that agentic space. We discussed AI, we didn't discuss the kind of AI doing its own thing until it comes back to you with a viable result. Thoughts on that, Richie?
Yeah, so AI agents, it's a very broad definition. People kind of disagree on exactly what constitutes an agent. So I think that there are
Hmm.
two uh, fields of thought. So one is that uh, the AI agents you should build should just be basically business processes encoded in software, and maybe it calls an LLM somewhere. So really, really simple agents just to make things automated and more efficient. So a good example of this. Um, when our sales team make a call, they're supposed to write down what was said in the call according to it's called the medpic framework. I can't remember what the acronym is. It's something salesy, but it's like basically about the state of the deal. And salespeople hate doing this because it's really tedious and involves thinking, and it's taking away time from them actually like doing something uh, that's going to help them hit their targets. So they do it badly. So we have a very simple agent which takes the call transcript and then it categorizes it according to this framework, and then dumps the results into Salesforce or wherever they're supposed to be in order to do this. So really, really simple agent, really, really useful because it makes the sales team happy because they don't have to do something they hate that's tedious and boring. And this is a great use case. On the other hand, you've got some companies trying to build really, really advanced employee replacement agents. So you've got
Mm-hmm.
things like, so Cognition Labs has Devin, it's like an AI software agent. You've got Julius AI creating like AI data scientists. You've got what's it called? Emo's trying to create like a universal AI employee, which sounds way too ambitious. I think it's mostly customer service agents at the moment, but like trying to get real people. And I feel like the sweet spot is kind of halfway in between. That like
Hmm.
if you have lots of repetitive processes, then yeah, okay, do very simple agents. But the modern sort of reasoning AIs mean you can actually do something a little bit more advanced there and have slightly more flexible processes being dealt with using agents.
This broaches on the usual elephant in the room topic when it comes to AI. Is AI is going to do everybody out of a job? And I think my personal take on that is, from a developer perspective, yeah, who doesn't want, like, I don't want to write boilerplate code. I don't want to write the mundane code. I want to do the work that, gives me a key differentiator. And I think that the types of jobs that developers will do will change. The areas they get involved in and change. What's your thoughts on that? AI is coming to take all our jobs, Richie.
Yeah, I mean, it does very much depend on your job. So, for example, like earlier this year, there was the Duolingo CEO talking about Duolingo's going AI first and no more contractors. There's going to be a hiring freeze. Everyone has to use AI. And it's going to be in your performance reviews. It's a pretty extreme take. And if you're a Duolingo contractor, then obviously, yeah, your job is being taken by AI. But I think for developers, at the moment there are more development tasks to be done than there are developers in the world. There's definitely a shortage of people with enough technical skills. So I don't think we're going to see developers losing jobs rapidly. I think there may be some hiring freezes at some companies, at least in the short term. But I think like being able to build stuff is just incredibly valuable. Like there is no shortage of problems where a bit of software skills is not going to come in handy. Like I feel like the world has so many problems. We need all the technology help we can get to solve them.
Software is eating the world, Richie, right? From our perspective, that most
Yeah,
definitely.
software is eating the world. AI is eating software, I guess.
I got a question in from Shri, which I'll answer because it's more of a MongoDB question than a data question. We have recently introduced a Django MongoDB backend. So Shri, go check that out. If you just search for that, you'll find our developer article on that. I think you'll find some examples as well too. We have a lot of Django developers. We've been at the Django cons. I think we're going to the US one in another couple of months as well too. So it's a key area for us. In terms of Django as yourselves on DataCamp, do you have much course and content around that?
No, so Django is very much for web developers. It's slightly out of our wheelhouse at the moment, so we don't have any content on that. I did use Django very briefly in about 2010. I wonder what's happened with it in the last 15 years.
Look, we have a lot of Django proponents in here in MongoDB, so it's something that we generally keep alive. And as I said, that MongoDB backend went public preview about 6-8 weeks ago, I think. So it was something new from us, and it's certainly an area. You mentioned obviously your books, the language, and you're kind of going, where's that gone? Obviously, Python has a resurgence with the AI. Are you seeing a lot of that yourselves as well too?
Yeah, so certainly. I mean, one thing I'll say, like Python is sort of eating everything. Like my background, I mentioned I came from the R community. I wrote books on R, and that's all gone away. So I think, yeah, it seems like the AI community is sort of settled on like Python and JavaScript being the two main languages. Yeah, so that's it's incredibly popular.
I don't think the developer community will ever settle on anything being the two main languages at all. This is a battle that's always going to happen. If it was, there's we know the Ruby on Rails, the Rust, there's a whole host of languages that were the next big thing, right?
Yeah, actually, one thing I've still been waiting for, like Julia was supposed to be the next big language in data. It's never quite happened. Like maybe one day it will, but yeah, not just yet.
Great. Well, look, this has been superb. I kind of think we're getting towards the end. Anyone got any questions in the comments? Please put them there before Richie and I disappear. We touched a little bit early on how to keep up to date, and data campus side, obviously, you need to prioritize that over your Duolingo, Richie. But how else do you consume the new stuff? Is it blogs? Is it videos, podcasts? How do you like to absorb, I suppose, your information to keep it at top of things?
all of these things. Actually, I have to say, if I want to learn about something new, I normally find an expert and I get them to come on on a webinar or a podcast, and I just get to interview them for an hour. And that's how I find out about stuff. So
I
yeah,
like your style. That's
yeah.
certainly something that I need to do as well too. I do get dropped in it from time to time, totally the deep end, doing these podcasts as well too. Going, I know nothing. I got to do my homework before it joins me. So it's certainly a good way to go. That's putting you on the edge, right? You're gonna say, right, I want to learn, and here's the person who's going to teach it to me.
Exactly. Yeah. So I have to say, quite often I do end up like having conversations about topics I have no idea about. Oh, the hardest one though is the sports analytics things because I'm not really like a huge sports fan. We did an episode of DataFramed on like how data is changing, like the NBA, and I had to
Mm.
study so much just basic basketball terminology just to not sound like an idiot in front of everyone. So yeah, AI stuff's fine. You can get away with a bit of blag there because not that many people understand absolutely everything. Yeah, sports is harder to get away with.
Yeah, sport. Well, at least basketball has a lot of action. I find the sports that have lots of downtime, baseball, American football, cricket, they are the ones that have lots of data associated with them because that's where you keep the interest up in between the downtimes of action on the pitch of the field or wherever it might be. I'm always amazed. And I know Moneyball, that is a stats.com is the company that the Moneyball guys founded, still going very, very strong. So it's a super interesting area, most definitely.
Yeah, and I have to say, just learning about the data analytics behind things has given me a greater appreciation for these sports because yeah, just knowing like how people are thinking about stuff and like what actually works well with data, it's like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, no, it certainly does. It's certainly churning out a lot. Um, I suppose, obviously, we put up the code for DataCamp earlier. It's in the comments there as well, too. You can grab that so people can jump across there and get started. Any final thoughts for our viewers, Richie, on, somebody saying, and I think we'd one comment come in, if I can just find it, is, I want to learn, but I have some difficulty. How can I start with app dev? Obviously, data camp, go start learning some stuff there, go other frameworks and use their courses. And MongoDB has a university as well too. But any other final thoughts for people who? I think AI is one of the areas that I think people are happy to experiment in my view. In other words, it's around, relatively new that there isn't, okay, people will always say they're experts, right? But there isn't anybody who's an expert in this space per se because it's so new. And there's a lots of experiment that you can just do and get up and running yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one tip I'll have is like it's always hard to find time to learn if you have a day job and like there's always this competing pressure of well, I've got a deadline for something else this week and I just don't have time to sit down and learn. So if you can, persuade your boss to have completing some courses as part of your quarterly targets. If your boss is on
Mm.
side with this and it's your boss nagging you to complete the learning, that's much better than being like, oh, well, I've got to wait and like try and learn on a weekend when I'm tired or whatever, because I couldn't do it during the week. So yeah, get it as part of your like quarterly targets, get it built into like something official at work, get your boss on side with you learning. That's going to make it so much easier to develop these new skills. Because yeah, it pays to have you competent and productive and knowing about all the latest technologies. It's going to pay off for your boss. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
going to make your life easier.
in that respect, I suppose, people need that discipline, certainly for self-paced learning, such as DataCamp provides. Any other tips around, okay, get your boss to set aside some time and maybe actually pay for it as well, too. Any other tips in kind of, how much somebody should, how often they should try, is it 20 minutes a day or 40 minutes a day, perhaps? Or do they set aside half a day and just do the rest of the work the other 4 days? What do you know works best, or how does it pan out? Do you hear anecdotally from your learners?
Yeah. So, I mean, your two options really are you set aside like a regular time each week.
Hmm.
So it's like maybe it's like after lunch on a Friday, it's like, okay, I'm going to spend an hour learning maybe twice a week. The other alternative is you save it up and you do an intensive. So it's like, okay, once once a quarter, I'm going to do like a 3 day learning binge or something like that and just like really get to grips with the new technology. Um, so again, it's going to depend on like what the rest of your life is like, what your flow is like. But yeah, building up regular habits for learning. Actually, there's also a DataCamp mobile app, so there's like a practice mode. So if you just want to do like 5 minutes on
Okay.
the bus during your commute, you can also do things that way. So yeah, you've got a choice between that, like regular small amounts of learning or big binge. Like certainly a lot of companies, they will run sort of like training days where it's like, okay, we're going to get everyone in a department to take the same course at the same time. So yeah, there's more than one way to learn, just as long as you find time somewhere.
Yeah, and find what suits you most. The fact that it's on mobile too, obviously you can use that downtime people have commuting or, just hanging around to maybe kind of upskill and leverage some learning off DataCamp as well too. Any parting thoughts, Richie, then? That did I miss any of the questions or topics we wanted to cover today? Anything to say?
Oh man, no. I mean, I think the trick is just to get started and do stuff. I mean, we talked before about like good ways of like adopting AI, and it's like, well, all the experts I speak to, they're like, well, first you need to like figure out what the business problem is, and then you need to get all the data and the infrastructure in place, and only then should you start building with AI. And that's fine, but you'll never ship anything. Just like get started, try a project, learn some new things, and yeah, make mistakes, and it's cool. Just make progress, do stuff.
Make progress, yeah, and you will make mistakes, but they're all learning experiences from, you learn more from mistakes than you do from kind of anything that goes smoothly, I think is kind of one of the mantras out there as well too.
Absolutely. And especially in a live situation like this, it's like make mistakes in front of everyone on camera. It's always the fun stuff.
Perfect. Well, listen, I certainly ascribe to that. Been doing that for a couple of years now, making tons of mistakes from people on camera, but you get used to it as well too. Richie, listen, it's been a pleasure to have you on board. Thank you for setting aside the time. I hope that the folks that have learned a lot can drop into Data Camp, see what we do there. I know we're a little early for the new courses that we have out with you from MongoDB, but as you said, first one end of July or so, and then onwards from there as well too. So certainly we'll keep an eye out for those. But for me, if you want to learn a little bit more about MongoDB, we have a developer center, developer.mongodb.com, where you can go. And as I said in the intro, we do these live streams, and I'm not the only one. My colleagues do these, I think, every Thursday or so, which are much more hands-on coding than me with the guest and talking through some demos as well too. But Richie, it's been superb to have you on. Thank you for sharing all the insights and agreeing to have that clickbaity title on the vibe coding. I think it worked well, and let's see how that one plays out in the long term. But it's been a pleasure to have you, Richie. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, and yeah, thanks to everyone in the audience for the great questions.
Indeed, yeah. Thank you for all our viewers, and do stay tuned and keep an eye out. Follow us on the various YouTube and LinkedIn. It's a follow or subscribe. I can't remember which one's which, but you know what to do. Press those buttons, and you'll get alerts for future shows such as this. So, for me, Shane McAllister in Amsterdam and Richie over in New York, it's been a pleasure, everybody. Thank you for your time, and thank you very much, Richie. Appreciate your time. Take care.